Today I'm bringing you a quick rules breakdown of a 3 to 4 player game of the G.I. Joe deck building game from Renegade Game Studios. For a full how to play video, check out the link in the description below.
Get back here this instant!
Thank you. Oh, I love you too. I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you. Thank you.
The G.I. Joe deck building game is played in rounds. During each round, players take turns in clockwise order around the table to go on missions and recruit new cards to improve their deck. Gameplay continues this way until the players either win or lose. Okay, let me start by giving you a peek of what you're up against. This is the threat meter. Every round, this meter increases by 1 space, sometimes even more. To defeat Cobra and put an end to their latest schemes, players will need to successfully complete the final mission of the story deck before the threat meter reaches this top space here. Because if that happens, you lose. A player's turn is broken up into 3 phases: the start phase, action phase, and end phase. And each of those phases must be performed in order. But the first round of the game plays out a little different. During the first round, and the first round only, each player skips the start phase of their turn and the mission portion of their action phase. Once everyone has had a turn, the round ends, the threat meter raises 1 space into the green zone, and the rest of the game continues as normal. Okay, once the first round is over, and from this point on, you'll play through all these phases in order until either you win or lose. The start phase is where you'll refill the story mission and resolve any start of turn effects, in that order. If there's no mission in play when the round starts, add 1 from the top of the story mission deck and apply any immediate effects that might be listed here. This mission, for example, tells us to bring in Baroness. In addition, if you see this red box with a number in it, then add that many cards from the top of the Complication deck and place them face down near the story mission card. Once you've refilled the story mission and done everything it required you to do, resolve any start of turn effects that are in play. Once you're done resolving all start of turn effects, we move on to the action phase. The action phase is broken up into 2 parts. During the first part, players can play cards from their hand to activate their abilities and start a mission. The second part of the action phase is where you get to spend recruitment points to purchase cards from the lineup and add them to your deck. Before we get into how each part of the action phase works, let's learn a little bit about the cards you'll be playing with. Throughout the game, your deck will change and grow with the different cards that you recruit. These cards consist of Joes, transports, utility, gear, and your starter cards. This large number in the upper left corner is the card's recruitment cost. Below that is the number of recruitment points that this card generates on your turn. In the case of a transport, this number represents how many Joes it can carry. And the image below that tells us what terrain type that vehicle is best suited for. This area here lists the Joe's skills. And the text in this window describes what this card does when you play it. Speaking of playing cards, a card's ability is resolved the moment you play it from your hand, but you can only play it before you go on a mission and once the mission is over. To start a group mission, the active player needs to announce which group mission they want to attempt, assign a Joe to start the mission, select a transport vehicle from the hangar, and place it in front of them. If a transport has a terrain type, it will be indicated here, but you can select any transport type to take on any mission. Although, if the transport type you take matches the terrain indicated on the mission, then you get to activate the bonus ability listed here. Once the active player has chosen a mission, played their Joe, and selected their transport, they can now ask if anyone wants to contribute a Joe to the mission. Players can contribute any number of Joes they have in their hand, as long as the total number of Joes going on the mission doesn't exceed the maximum capacity of the transport. So in this example, up to 5 Joes can go on this mission. The only cards that can be played once the mission starts are cards with these icons in their ability text. These cards can be played at any time, even after you see the dice result, and by any player, as long as they have at least one Joe in the fight. But before we roll any dice, the first thing you're going to do when the mission starts is reveal any face-down complication cards that might be attached to that mission. Once that's done, resolve the complications in the order of your choosing. Once you've resolved all the complications, it's time to roll some dice. To defeat a mission, you need to roll enough hits to meet or exceed that mission's difficulty number. The number of dice you roll is based on the Joes you brought on the mission and the particular set of skills best suited for said mission, as listed here. In this example, the mission is best suited for Joes with these skill types. So if I look at this Joe that I brought with me on the mission, I can see that they have one of the listed skill types preceded by this number 3. This means that since this Joe has a skill that matches one of the skills listed on the mission, they contribute 3 dice to that roll attempt. This Joe, on the other hand, has the other listed skill type preceded by a 4, which means that we add 4 more dice to our roll. If a Joe doesn't have a mission-appropriate skill, they can still contribute 1 wild die to the roll, which brings us to a grand total of 9 dice. But the game only comes with 8. Not a problem. If you ever need to roll more than the 8 dice included, simply make your initial roll, separate your hits, and use your misses, these faces with the circle icon, to make up for any missing rolls. Score 1 hit for every star you roll. If you successfully complete the mission, remove it and place it under this mission success token. If you failed the story mission, remove it and place it under the failed mission token. Whether you succeed or fail, any face-up complications attached to that mission will be removed and placed in the complication discard pile. Cobra officers, on the other hand, stay in play until they're defeated. Once the mission is over, the active player sets all cards they played for that mission, except for the transport, off to the side. The other players who contributed to the mission can safely discard all the cards they played into their discard pile. At this point, most transports used for missions would be placed directly into the discard pile of the active player. The starting vamp transport is the exception to this rule, because it is always returned to the hangar after a mission. If you did use a transport that needed to be discarded, the next time it turns up in your hand, you must return it to the hangar at the start of your action phase. The other type of group missions involve Cobra officers. Cobra officers are brought into play by other cards, and have effects on the story missions, like requiring a leader to start a mission. To stop officers from making your life more difficult than it has to be, players can go on group missions just as they would with a story mission. Biggest difference, if you fail an officer group mission, the officer stays in play. Side missions consist of cards like troopers, battalions, and precision strikes. What separates these missions from group missions is that you have to complete them alone, without any help from any other player. To attempt a side mission, it has to be in your play area, or covering up a card in the lineup, as is the case with these Cobra Battalion cards. As long as a card in the lineup is covered up by a Cobra Battalion, it cannot be recruited. If you ever find yourself with 5 cards in the lineup covered up, and you have to cover up a 6th, the players immediately lose. And one last note, unless specifically told by a card's effect where to place a Cobra Battalion, always place it on top of the leftmost card in the lineup that doesn't already have a battalion on it. Once you're done taking on missions and playing cards to trigger abilities, we move on to the recruitment phase. The recruitment phase is when you get to recruit cards to improve your deck. To recruit a new card, first add up the total of recruitment points from all the cards you played this turn and all the cards in your hand. Then spend those points to recruit as many cards as you can afford. When you buy a card, either from the lineup or this stack of service rifles, place that card face down on top of your deck, not your discard pile. Unlike other cards, transports aren't just yours, they belong to the team. So when you recruit a transport, instead of placing it on top of your deck, place it face up in the hangar so it's ready for the next player to use, if they want to. As soon as you recruit a card from the lineup, fill the space immediately with a new card from the top of the main deck. Another thing you can do during the recruitment phase is to promote your leader from this to this. To promote your leader, you must be able to pay the cost listed here, and have your current leader in play. Once you pay the cost, place the new promoted version of your leader on top of your deck, and place the older non-promoted version back in the box. The first thing you're going to do during the end phase is resolve all end of turn effects in this order. Story mission end of turn effects, followed by any Cobra card end of turn effects, and then any end of turn effects listed on the threat meter based on the current threat level. Once all end of turn effects have been resolved, discard all the cards you've played and any cards remaining in your hand. Then draw back up to 5 cards. If you ever need to draw a card from your deck, but your deck is empty, shuffle your discard pile, place it face down to form a new deck, and continue drawing from there. And now that you've refilled your hand, your turn is over and play passes to the next player on your left. After everyone has had a turn and we've made it all the way around the table to this end of round marker, we resolve all the end of round effects listed here in order. When the final story mission of an act is completed, as indicated by these gold bordered cards, a new act will begin at the start of the next player's turn. When placing the first card of a new act, take all the complication cards with the matching act number and the cards in the complication deck's discard pile and shuffle them into the main complication deck. If you successfully complete the final story mission before the threat meter reaches this Cobra space, you win. And that's all you need to know to play the G.I. Joe deck building game, and knowing is half the battle. Yo, Joe. Thanks for joining us. If you like this video and you want to see more, subscribe to our channel. It's the best way to keep up to date with everything we do here at Board Game Coffee. But if you want to see more right now, we got plenty of videos to choose from. And if that's not enough, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm Mark Maya, and this is Board Game Coffee. And remember, have fun, keep gaming, be social. See you next week.